Hey, what is up YouTube? Pangu Gaming here to give you a quick first impression video on Kuni II. For those of you who follow me on my Instagram account at Pangu Gaming, you probably already know how I feel about this game because of all of the positive things I've had to say about it so far. I'm only 5 hours into the game and starting chapter 3 of 9, and by now have been introduced to most of the battle elements of the game that make me confident on giving a good first impression view of the game. Most of you are probably here for the discussion on the gameplay, so I'm just going to start with that. Once I had finished the first tutorial on the combat, I had already noticed that the gameplay is much different than its predecessor. Rather than an option-based RPG-style game like in the first game, Kuni II uses a much faster action-based approach. The combat allows you to use a light attack, a heavy attack, and a ranged attack, along with a selection of skills unique to each individual character. Each weapon also has its own zing meter, which is sort of like a charge gauge to determine the strength of the skill that you will use. The zing meter increases in percentage as you attack enemies and becomes capped at 100% where it will be the strongest. When the skill is used at 100%, the attack may have a different animation and your meter will definitely be depleted to 0. This is definitely your cue to switch to another weapon with more zing that is charged. It adds an extra little element to the game that stops the game from being too hack and slashy and makes you think a little bit about when to use each one of your skills. That being said, the game so far is fairly easy and doesn't require too much planning ahead. One other thing that is different from the first game is that there is a loot element to the game that is very different from the previous game. I would compare the loot system to a Diablo game, which I definitely enjoy. I've already nicknamed many of the items that I've found so far commons, epics, and legendaries, so that's pretty much self-explanatory in terms of the loot system. Disappointingly, however, the familiar system that I love so much from the first game is not present in Kuni II. The quote-unquote Pokemon element isn't there, and I am quite sad about it. A couple hours into the game, they throw you into puzzles, and I do love myself some puzzles, especially if there are bonus items to get from them if you do them efficiently. I do realize that puzzles aren't for everyone, but it definitely is for me, and it was a nice quick break from all the hacking and slashing. One of the minor gripes that I've had about the gameplay so far was the transition in and out of battles in the world map mode. It isn't smooth and is a little clunky, but it definitely is not game-breaking and does not make me enjoy the game any less than I should. One last thing to mention about the gameplay, which I just encountered, was the skirmish battle system, which I assume is related to the kingdom development that's supposed to happen a little later on in the game. I can't really comment too much on this right now as I've only played it once, but it did feel a little weird and forced as an extra minigame. It seems like I might end up really enjoying it or really hating it. I just have to see what happens a couple more hours into the game. Now onto the graphics. Graphics-wise, it definitely is a step up from the original game. The gameplay is smooth and the graphics are smooth on my regular PS4, and the characters, monsters, and scenery are all beautifully designed. I know Studio Ghibli isn't involved in this Kuni II, but Level 5 does a great job proving that they do not need Ghibli to make a beautiful game. And definitely don't let the lack of involvement of Studio Ghibli stop you from buying the game, because it obviously draws many of its elements and inspirations from Ghibli. Okay, and finally now for the story. For those of you who don't know, the game is about a young boy named Evan and his quest to become the king of a kingdom where everyone can live happily ever after. I know I've made this sound pretty generic, but I definitely don't want to give away too many spoilers for those of you who are planning to get the game. Kuni II does a great job at throwing you into the game a lot quicker than the first game, which is admittedly a little slow. Although there isn't much time to bond with the characters, you've already got a great sense of their personality when you meet each individual character. Tawny, for example, the third character you meet in the game, is a perky little girl who I've encountered in only 2 scenes, but I already enjoy her presence very much. She's straightforward, honest, and doesn't take crap from anyone, and I can't wait to continue my adventures with her. In terms of the music, I really like all the tracks on it so far. I have heard other people say otherwise, but I am thoroughly enjoying it. It is lacking a bit compared to the first game, but I am still pretty satisfied. Anyways, I hope that was convincing enough for you to purchase the game, because so far this game is great. So for now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll probably be doing another video when I'm about 15 to 20 hours in, and I hope to see you guys then.